Do, 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 do. Hello and welcome to AdaptNation, the show where we look at adaptations from across the nations. And this week we're looking at Harry Potter movies. My name is your good friend Owen Adams, and I'm being joined by my good friend Jonathan Cadott. How you doing?
I'm doing just fantabulous.
Before we get into these movies, I'm gonna make my initial observation about all the Harry Potter movies, which is these movies have one of the most offensively intrusive soundtracks. And I'll get into how I feel about the films in a wider sense, but this really does feel like you're trying to listen, but somewhere someone's cast a spell, shall we say, to drown out everything you hear with
Damn you, John Williams, the darkest wizard the world has ever known.
Right. It is always shouting Harry Potter music at you over every moment loudly. It's really strange. How are you, John? How you doing this week?
I am doing pretty well. It's been a little busy. Life has definitely kicked it up a gear for me, so a lot of stuff going on. But, definitely had some time to sit down and watch these movies, so which is nice.
Well, you've also been working your way through the Harry Potter books too.
I have, yes.
Mildly on topic. How far are you in with those now?
I am now currently on Order of the Phoenix.
Oh, okay, so you're pretty far ahead.
Yeah.
Pretty far ahead. What do you think? You just done Azkaban last time, right?
Well, I mean, I finished Goblet of Fire too, but.
Oh yeah, but I mean, last time we spoke, I think you just finished.
I went through Goblet of Fire probably in about a week.
Okay.
About 5 days.
We'll get into those a bit more in our other show, because this is the movie show.
This is the movie show.
Talk about the movies.
Yep.
But we're gonna do the first 3 Harry Potter movies this week because I didn't have time to watch them really. So of course that's what John suggested. So I squeezed all 3 movies in today. And I won't lie, if you want me to talk about anything in the last 20 minutes of Prisoner of Azkaban, fuck it. I don't give a shit. I was not paying attention anymore, but I have seen it before. So
okay, so it's funny that you mentioned that, and we'll bring it. We'll get around to it when we get to it. But I had a very similar experience with the end of Azkaban.
But we're gonna take these in order. So I'm gonna roll up. We're gonna get through these quickly,
sure.
And then we'll talk more generally about the first 3. Worth mentioning, I think the first 2 were directed by the same guy, and then I believe the third one has a different director. Which
yes.
I forgot to look this up because I'm dumb. But
Christopher Columbus.
Right,
Chris Columbus did the first 2.
Christopher Columbus.
Well, his name's Chris Columbus.
He discovered that the world was round, and then he made some Harry Potter movies.
And then enslaved and murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah, and didn't do the first thing either.
No.
We knew the world was round. Let's do it. So the first movie, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, depending on which version you're watching. And for trivia nerds out there, that's not just a change in title. Every time they refer to either stone, if you're in Europe, you get one cut of the movie, and if you're in Britain, you get a different one. They filmed every reference to that stone
You mean
twice.
United States.
Oh, sorry, you're right. What am I talking about? Yeah,
I mean, Brexit's coming, but...
Yes. I feel like that franchise, surely it's good enough clout now that they could just go, no, we're just going to use the title that it's supposed to be.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Philosopher... No! Doesn't even make sense, because the Philosopher's Stone is a thing. Alright, so let's talk about it.
There's no such thing as magic.
Dear Mr. Potter, you have been accepted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Soon, you and your schoolmates will join us here, and your education in the magical arts shall begin.
Harry, you are the boy who lived.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Harry Potter is a 10-year-old boy who lives with his aunt and uncle and cousin, who are terrible people. They treat him pretty badly, and they make him live in a cupboard under the stairs. But one day he gets a letter through the mail addressed to Mr. Harry Potter, first time he's ever got a letter. And for some reason, his uncle really does not wish for him to get this letter, so he goes to great lengths to prevent him from receiving his letter. But eventually, the sender of the letter reaches him through the persona of Hagrid, a giant man with a giant beard, who tells him that what his aunt and uncle are keeping from him is that he's a wizard. And, he's a wizard! Memes. And he is invited to go study at the most prestigious school of wizardry and witchcraft, and presumably the only one, because you never hear any others this stage in the films.
Right.
Called Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft. But not in Britain,
Right.
from what I can tell.
Yes.
So Harry, his aunt and uncle oppose it, but he manages to get his own way anyway. He goes to Hogwarts, where he discovers that he's something of a minor celebrity in the wizarding world, because many, many years ago when he was a boy, his parents were murdered by essentially like Wizard Hitler.
Right.
And Wizard Hitler attempted to kill him too, but when he tried, for some reason the curse backfired and Hitler died instead, and Harry Potter survived. Over the course of the rest of the movie, we discover that while Harry is learning new wizarding lessons, the school are actually hiding a mystical artifact called the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone, depending on which version you're watching, in Hogwarts, and Voldemort the Wizard has returned and is attempting to steal the stone for himself. Ups and downs ensue. Eventually it comes to a big culmination between Harry and Voldemort, who is hiding under the turban of a wizard called Professor Quirrell, and he stops Voldemort from getting the stone, and he kills him, and sort of, and saves the day. That's the gist of the first. You guys all know what the plot to Harry Potter is. I don't know why I bothered doing it, but right, that's basically it, right?
Yep, I would say so.
Okay, so first question: were you familiar with the source material before viewing this movie this week, sir?
This week, yes.
Since I am aware of this, I know you. Well, we don't have to go to our full history,
Right,
I suppose.
right.
Unless...
I had seen the movie before I'd read the books. That was such a long time ago. It doesn't really matter. I not really remembered.
Sorry, just you keep talking. Just while you're trying to speak, just carry on. Just keep explaining.
Okay, and
Do 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 do. Sorry, is that distracting? Continue. No, please keep explaining important information.
I don't want to anymore. I'm afraid John Williams is gonna come back.
That's a great compliment to my singing, though. Sorry, I will not do that again, I promise.
So I did. I'm just nervous. Damn you, John Williams. No. So I just recently read the book and I decided to watch the movies. I was trying to go into like a 3, like watch every 3, you know. So I'd read the first 3 books and watch the movies, and then read the next 3, then watch the movie, and then I figured I'd read the last book, and then there's 2 movies for that one, so it's pretty close.
Right.
Yeah, I pretty much did that. I almost finished Goblet of Fire by the time I watched these movies again, and yeah, so I would say I'm familiar. I am familiar with the source material.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's how many books were out by the time this movie came out. So,
yeah.
So you'd if you were an avid Harry Potter book fan when this came out, that's how many books you'd have read.
Well, see, this came out in 2001, the movie.
Uh-huh.
So, how many books?
I'm pretty sure it was Goblet of Fire because I went to see this in the theaters the week it came out. The only time I went to a movie with my mother, weirdly enough, and that was the book that everyone was talking about in Harry Potter 2, Goblet of Fire, that had just come out.
Yeah, Goblet of Fire came out in July 8th, 2000. So, very close.
Yeah. So, yeah, and this, I would say, for a lot of people, this kicked off the Harry Potter boom, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the books were pretty well known and popular before the film.
Right. I mean, like, I remember Goblet of Fire being just, like... I think Goblet of Fire was the one that keyed me into just how big these books were.
It's the same. Yeah. People were telling me how good Harry Potter was when Goblet of Fire came out. Mm-hmm. And then I went back, and I think I'd read the first one, and I'd read Azkaban. I hadn't read Chamber of Secrets, because for some reason I could never get a copy of that for a long time. Yeah. So my personal history, as I've just said, is yes, that's what I'd done. And so I was pretty familiar with this going in. So do you think it works as an adaptation, John? Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone?
Yes, and a very weird thing happened because of this.
Okay. This
has a very strange effect. This doesn't happen very often with adaptations. But I think this is a rare occurrence. This is just as Harry is a rare occurrence that, you know, he survived a curse. This movie has a strange effect. It is very, very close to the first book.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, I think of all the movies I've seen, this one is the closest to having...
It's realistically as close as you can get.
Right.
Like, the only thing that's really cut out is a lot of the stuff around the subplot involving Hagrid's dragon.
Right. I mean, Hagrid's dragon is there, but it's dealt with very quickly.
Immediately.
Yeah. But the weird thing is that watching the movie and realizing how close it was had a weird inverse effect on me, where I watched the movie and I'm like, huh, that really was the whole book, wasn't it? And it kind of made the book worse in my mind.
I think that's fair.
And
that's fair.
I think that's a very strange thing when it comes to adaptations. You don't see that effect very often. This is I'm going to call it the Cadet effect.
So I think what's interesting about this one as an adaptation is it's not where the later films will go just yet, but they develop a nice visual style immediately for what the Wizarding World's going to look like, and it's pretty cheap.
Stupid.
The budget, right? I think the budget of this one compared to later movies, it's obviously much lower, but they really go for it. They try to be very authentic. I hear J.K. Rowling really fought to make sure it was a British cast in a British setting because they wanted to like reset it to the US, and I don't think that would have worked necessarily.
No, I don't. Because so here's the weird thing like about that. I think we've discussed this before. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I don't speak for everyone in America, but like England already has like a sort of weird whimsical,
right?
Like thing to it. Like it's hard to explain, but like just everything seems sort of like, I hate to say like silly, but it's kind of silly, you know.
Well, part of the issue is Hogwarts doesn't just need to feel like a magical school, like like the college in Skyrim. It needs to feel like a British boarding school as well,
Right.
and that's a big part of it. But no, I know exactly what you mean. I think it's a very good adaptation of the book but I think it really comes through how much of a children's book the book is, how much of a children's movie this is.
Right.
But no, I'd agree. I don't think this film's aged very well. The first one.
No, and there is one. I would say there's one character in the movie that I feel that they've changed. I don't want to say drastically, but changed his persona enough. I think Ron is depicted very differently in the movie as opposed to the book.
They lean into coward.
Yes,
a lot in the film.
Yes. That's what
and he's not exactly brave in the book, but he's more like normal kid.
Right.
I think.
Well, it's like in the book, he's very quick to like he starts fights. Like
yes.
He sort of punches.
He's the rough and tumble working class kid.
Right.
Absolutely. I definitely think I don't think Ron comes across great. I think Hermione's fine. I think at this point Emma Watson is the weakest of the child actors.
In this one, sure.
In this one.
No, you know what?
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll get into this when we talk about the movie as a whole. I did not care for Daniel Radcliffe in this book or this movie at all.
I don't think he's great either. It's really interesting casting choice, isn't it? Because this is like one of the biggest casting calls for child actors at this time, and yet they don't get anybody who you look at and go, "Wow, that's an amazing child actor," do you? There's no one where you go, "Wow, they pulled that off just like a grown-up actor would." They're all like, "Wow, okay, that's the read you went." I mean, we'll talk about this more as the movies go, but the actor playing Neville. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I'm glad this is the only role he ever got that I've ever seen. He's the worst. And, okay, we're going to talk about more movies in the future. He gets precisely 0% better. Like, he has no growth, no improvement. Some things I think come across really well from the books. I think McGonagall is perfect.
Yep.
Perfectly cast, perfectly written, perfectly directed. I think Quirrell actually communicates the way he's written in the book quite well, actually. And I like how I think this movie does a good job of pulling that mystery together, so he's always looking the right place or just in the right shot near Snape when he needs to be to kind of sell the red herring a little bit, you know? Which is not too bad. But yeah, all in all, as an adaptation, pretty straight on the book. Really, the only thing that is different is worth mentioning is the visual design, I guess, of the Wizarding World, which is cheaper than I remember, much more basic. So, anything else you want to say about it, just as an adaptation?
Not really, I guess.
I mean, we'll get in when we talk about the movie. We'll cover adaptation stuff more, but all right. Let's do it then.
Okay.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone / Sorcerer's Stone. Does it work as a movie in its own right?
This one, I'm a little torn. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine movie. Like,
I think it's very of its time.
Yeah, it's fine. Like it's fine.
What you have to remember, people, is this is what children's movies were like when we were like 11, 12-ish, and there were a lot of them. Yeah. And it feels it so much. In a way that the later movies feel like they're more their own thing and they stand out a little better, this one feels very early 2000s kids movie, and it's not a great one, I don't think, in its own right.
You know what the weird thing is? The thing that always sticks out to me, right? I don't know why this sticks out so much, but like in the books, and I don't mean to keep doing this. Oh, in the book it does, but
I mean that's the purpose of the show. Go for it.
But like in the books, there's this there's kind of this big thing about how they're like always wearing the robes, right? And like they kind of make a point to always say like everyone's either wearing robes or like a variation on robes,
Right.
And so for some weird reason, it really threw me that the final confrontation scene, not to really jump ahead, but this is one of the first things that always jumped out of my head when I think about this movie now, is whose idea was to have our brave hero face down the dark wizard Voldemort wearing like a red sweater and some like smart khakis.
It's a very 10-year-old look, isn't it?
He looks so like...
You know when you dress up the young kid for the first formal dinner with like the aunt coming in from out of town? It looks like that.
But he also has like the brown shoes that are clearly like not like well-made shoes. They're like...
This gets to something I do kind of like, which is throughout the run of this series, there is never an attempt in any way to try and make Harry Potter cool.
Right.
At all. But except only within the ways that the book already does. Like, he's the world's finest young Quidditch player.
Right.
And he just happens to be the powerful wizard in all the right ways. And I think the books have always been kind of... I don't love that. The way he always just happens to be just the right amount of chosen one.
Oh yeah, he's flipping. He's always just amazing. Whatever he has to do.
Right. Despite the fact that they always try and make him look more... And Hermione's supposed to be the smart one, But there are some things I like about this movie. I think the child actors really age it very badly, but I like... I think they do a good job with Hogwarts. I think Hogwarts looks good and feels like...
Hogwarts looks amazing. I would love to have gone to school in, like, that building,
Beautiful place. That dining hall and the spells and the floating candles is a great look.
Yes.
Really sticks with you. I also like the bridge. I don't know why that's an image that just sticks in my mind, but that bridge to nowhere that's just...
I know what you mean.
It's a beautiful look. I like that you see it in all kinds of different weathers.
I will also say that the lake is... The size of that lake changes from movie to movie in such a weird way.
Well, I'm not entirely sure the shape of Hogwarts doesn't change from movie to movie. It has that kind of feel to it. I don't think the stuff back outside the Wizarding World looks as great. And it inherits a fair few problems from the book, right? Like, it inherits a few things. Like, the connection between the Wizarding World and the real world is very spotty at best,
Right.
Like, we realize that, there are some muggles who know about the Wizarding World, but they're not in the Wizarding World. And then there are some that don't at all, and it's supposed to be a secret. But that's not really the movie's fault, I guess. But still, they don't find a better way to handle that.
I mean, it's one of those weird things where it's like, like the whole like platform 9 3/4, right?
Right.
Where it's like, oh, just make sure no one's watching. Like, did you see how busy that goddamn train station was?
Right.
Like, someone is seeing that shit, right?
Right, and later on they build kind of a thing of like, oh, muggles just don't see what they don't want to see, but right now we don't have that.
Right.
and yeah, it definitely relies on a sort of like, yeah, just carry on, nobody will notice anything, I mean, the one I was... Oh man, I'm jumping ahead here, but if the only way into the Wizarding World is through that special portals like that, right?
Right.
How can you then just get in a car and follow a train that leaves from one of those portals?
I was thinking that myself. I was just like...
What's the logic of it? This is one of those franchises where you have to put away any kind of idea of following the logic between how the two worlds connect and just go by, when you're in Hogwarts, it works as they've established in the book earlier that things work. Not even how they establish in previous books. How do they say it works this time? That's how it works.
Right.
But, I guess my big disappointment rewatching this one is, I have a fondness for Harry Potter as someone who read them as a kid. I liked the first book when I read it, but I don't go back and read that one very much because it's obviously for younger kids, I think. The same with the film. Upon rewatching it, I must admit, I don't really... I find it quite difficult to actually get in this movie. The only reason to watch it is if you're watching all of them and you want to, like, go through the plot points, you know what I mean? There aren't really any moments of tension. Even, like, the big spooky moment where they're going through the forest and they find Voldemort's killed the unicorn, it's drinking its blood. It's a scary-ish image, but there isn't a lot of tension to that scene, is there?
No, and what's actually kind of funny about how they do it in the movie as opposed to the book, right, is that, I mean, the scene kind of plays out the same. But they kind of make a point in the book to introduce and establish the centaurs first.
Right.
And then, like, in the movie, it's like, one just shows up like, oh, hey!
Centaurs exist!
Yeah. And then I'm going to tell you something kind of important. Oh.
And this is...
Okay.
And this is our first example of how the Wizarding World has just no regard for the basics of health and safety.
Right. So
Can you imagine if, like, you'd done something wrong when you were in high school, right? And you were taken to the principal or the head teacher or whatever you got, and they said to you, okay, this means you get detention. You're going to spend your detention repairing the faulty circuit boxes in the gym. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's almost even more dangerous than that. It'd be like, oh yeah, you pulled a fire alarm. Here's your detention. I'm gonna place this
In fire.
I'm gonna put this revolver in front of you. There's one bullet, and for the next 2 hours, spin it. You know.
I mean, the centaur comes out and he's like, so they find this dead centaur for people who haven't seen the movie, and
Unicorn.
Unicorn. Sorry, they find this dead unicorn, and Hagrid says something's been killing unicorns. Mm-hmm. And okay, that might just because for all we know at this point in the movie, unicorns are just like horses in the Wizarding World, right? There's nothing special about them. Maybe they're just horses. But then when they find it, the centaur comes out and he goes, "Only the most depraved and evil of creatures would kill a unicorn." And they sent 4 children, to go deal with the unicorn killer.
Well, and then I really
and not even all with Hagrid. They split them up.
Right.
Two kids on their own with a lamp.
Yeah, it's like it's Hermione and Ron by themselves. Or no, how did that go?
It's Hermione, Ron, and Hagrid.
Right, and then it says Draco,
Malfoy, Harry, and Fang.
Yeah, the dog, who's a coward. Hagrid makes a point of saying, "Oh yeah, he's a coward."
That is a legitimate funny moment in the movie.
Yeah.
In fact, there are funny moments that are not in the book that come from Hagrid.
Yeah.
Hagrid's running thing because
I shouldn't have said that.
Well, someone must have pointed out that he repeatedly spills highly critical information by mistake in the book, so they just turn it into a joke. Oh, I should not have said that. It is funny, you know, because Robbie Coltrane's a great actor and he works that character pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like. Not the film's fault. It happens in the book too, but we've got to judge the film as a movie.
I mean, here's the thing. What makes it even better, right? Makes that whole scene better is in the movie, you know, or in the book, right? Just 45 minutes previously, Dumbledore's like, "Hey, don't go into the forest. It's off limits." Like, and I think he's like, "Yeah, you'll probably die. Don't go in there."
And you know the best bit?
Unless you're a naughty boy. Then we're sending your ass into the forest.
The best bit is, do you know what they were being punished for, listeners? Being out of their beds at night, for it's not safe.
I know what the best, and using forward knowledge. Like, I know it's not fair to use forward knowledge, but in the later books and movies, we find out what else is in this forest.
And it doesn't stop at Voldemort.
This forest is a goddamn nightmare. Like, this is Australia. Like, everything in this forest is trying to kill you. Let's
they have
send kids into it.
they have a very blasé attitude about this. I mean, they do have a killer tree on Hogwarts grounds, so I guess there's just a whole different sort of scale for. So. It's a strange system. There are things I like about the movie. I think when it gets spooky, it works. That moment of Voldemort killing the unicorn is effective, even though it's not scary. There are some less good moments. If you wanted a poster child for movies in which early 2000s CGI has not aged well, look at the Quidditch scenes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's bring up Quidditch.
When Neville gets hung on the side of the building.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Quidditch. Okay, let's talk about Quidditch. What did you think of the Quidditch? Is this how you pictured it in the book? This is something I want to ask about.
Yeah, I mean, it was close enough. It was...
Yeah.
Stupid.
I mean, the game is nonsensical anyway.
Yeah, it's... Like, I remember reading the rules, I'm like, wait, what? Like, what? So the game ends when you get the snitch, but you also get 150 points.
It's clearly that she wasn't interested in writing the sport so that you have to actually develop the whole game and then write the game so that there's tension over how the whole game's going and it ends in a win. So she crafts a sport where there's basically only one win scenario and then she just has to follow Harry Potter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, except in later books, there's plot points that hinge on, like, the weird, like, scoring system.
Yes, well then it wasn't interesting enough to keep doing it 3 books in a row.
Alright. So, I mean, yeah, like, so, okay, this is my thing, right? This movie came out in 2001, right?
Right.
In 1999, another little film came out called Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Now, one of the huge criticisms of The Phantom Menace was, hey, you know that weird sports section in the middle that went on for fucking ever?
Oh, you know, I know people who at the time legitimately thought that was the highlight of the movie.
The pod racing?
Yes.
I didn't. Just...
That's why when it got re-released on DVD, George Lucas made that section even longer.
Did he?
Yeah, it's longer. If you've watched that movie on home video, well, yeah, every time that movie's been re-released, it gets longer. The pod race. It's like 15 minutes now, I think. It's really long.
Yeah. So the Quidditch scene is basically the same. Oh my god, this scene goes on and on.
Yeah.
And on.
And it's weird because the crowd's all totally separated. I guess this is like a budget-saving feature, because whenever you want a crowd shot, it's like 20 people in a row of 5 seats. It's alright. It plays out as it plays in the books. I mean, I could do without the Quidditch. It doesn't really interest me at all.
I mean, I guess like in this one, it's important for this Quidditch scene to happen, because some things happen during the match. But, like, damn, this, like, we didn't. So what this does is, like, I was kind of tempted to go back and read the Quidditch section in the book. So what it does is, in the movie, it gives you the major plot things that happen, right?
Right.
Hermione sees Snape muttering a curse. Turns out not to be Snape, but that's the important thing, right? And then, like, I guess you would say, like, Harry getting this.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the first Harry Potter movie. You got anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's another kind of strange moment, and once again, this is not so much the fault of the movie. This is also kind of weird in the book. It ends on a really weird note, where it's like one, how Harry defeats Professor Purell.
Professor Purell.
Yeah, that's what I call him.
It's your pet name.
Right.
Come to bed, Professor Purell.
Leave the turban on.
But not on your head.
For me. It does something for me, okay? Just... So... It's one of the weirdest, most, like... anticlimactic moment in like any literature. It really ends on a really weird note where it's like, oh no, Voldemort's back. Oh no, Pirel's gonna get Harry, and he touches Harry and dies.
Yeah, it is kind of a dramatic moment. It's interesting too because I don't think anybody was really expecting Voldemort to return in that book on the back of somebody else's head. So it's a legitimate surprise, right? Mm-hmm. But it is kind of established. You know, he went away to another country and he didn't come back the same. They established that Voldemort... Although they don't say that in the movie. That's in the book. Why am I giving you information that's not in the movie? In the book, they established that Professor Quirrell went away to another country and came back unusual. After they established that Voldemort fled to lands distant.
Right.
So in the movie, Quirrell's a coward for the whole movie. And then at the end, it turns out it's all a ruse, and he's actually evil, and on the back of his head is Voldemort. Voldemort, another piece of not great 2001 era CGI. But I think they were happier with the effect than they were with anything else around it, right? Because that whole climax also takes place in a really rubbish set, I think.
Yeah, it does.
It's like some stairs.
Yeah.
In an empty room with the mirror. And again, I don't 100% get, maybe I'm dumb here, I still don't 100% get this ending. He sees the stone in his pocket in the mirror because it's the thing he wants to see the most, but he doesn't want to use it, therefore. But is the mirror part of what so the thing that annoys me is this mirror is established earlier in the book, right? How would Harry have found the stone if Dumbledore hadn't moved the mirror there? If he hadn't found the mirror earlier? Or is that just a piece of luck? Is the mirror an integral part of this system, or is the mirror there by accident?
I think the mirror is supposed to be there, right? Because Dumbledore says, "Oh yeah, this will be moved tomorrow." When he finds it in the classroom, right?
Oh right, I've always assumed that Dumbledore moved the mirror because Harry was looking at it too much.
No, I think it was on its way to being moved when Harry found it.
Right. Fair enough.
I mean, like, this movie really kind of establishes, like, yeah, wizards are cool and all, but, they're not exactly, pragmatic, or, you know.
Well, I mean, this is the dumbest thing about Harry Potter's wizarding world, isn't it? They've managed to use no Muggle technology for anything, right? They don't even knit their own jumpers. They still use knitting needles and wool, but they put them on auto knit through the power of magic.
Right.
But, like, everything they do is harder than just doing it the normal way. You know what they should have done? They should have just put that Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, whatever, in just, like, a safe. And then when Voldemort get there, he'd be screwed. He's never seen one of them before. He's got no idea how it works. Like an electronic safe with a chip and pin card.
Right. Right. Like an RFID.
Right. What's he gonna do?
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, they try to make it out to, like, Voldemort is this, like, super huge threat, not only to the wizarding world, but to the world as a whole. Like, oh, like, if Voldemort really sets out, he can wipe out Muggles, which he wants to do. You know, he hates Muggles, and he hates, you know, wizards who have Muggle blood in them, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, all I can think of...
later.
What's that?
That comes up more later. But
yeah. All I can think about, like, watching this is, like, especially when, like, his followers and stuff do kind of come into play, it's like, you know what? Let him try. You know, let him try to take on the real regular world. Like, these people would be killed instantly. Like, because like, we're going to wage war against the Muggles. It's like, we've been doing that amongst ourselves for centuries. Like, we're really good at it now. Like, it's like, also, yeah, wave your stick. I have a Tomahawk cruise missile.
After they've wiped out all the Muggles, watch them operate agricultural equipment.
Right.
I guess we could fit this to the tractor and pull the ground across with the...
Well, I think at a certain point, I don't remember. I thought it was in this book, but it might not be in this book. But someone makes a comment that, like, oh, Muggles, have accomplished the same thing as wizards have. They just use technology instead of magic. And all I can think is like, yeah, and we did it better, like,
and faster,
yeah,
and more efficiently for everyone.
Yeah, like this is like you don't need special magic powers to run the internet,
Yeah. Do you know what we have instead of the night bus? A regular bus service of a normal bus.
Yeah. Like, hey, you know what? No, we have instead of like fallible feathered, creatures to deliver our mail. We have email. Like, we have...
Right, and also mail.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing about the owl, the magical world, isn't it, right? Nobody ever carries, like, a letter. Owls do everything, right? And they do it pretty crappily, too, because the amount of times messages don't get sent because of owl interruption and things like that, right? No human being considers a worthy job for a human being to carry a letter in the Wizarding world. No,
Right.
that's owl work. Don't you mean... Do the owls just have a really fantastic union?
They've cornered the market. This is really like you generally don't worry about like. This is another thing that happens later on in the series. I won't bring up like names or whatever, but a character asks Harry to send him letters, but keep switching the owl, right? Because because at a certain point, he's afraid someone will notice the same owl coming to him and intercept the owl. No one in the history of the mail has ever gone, hey, make sure you have a different person delivering that letter. Because I'm worried about someone intercepting my postman.
It's funny too because no one would be going if they're watching you enough to see the same owl come to you every day. They're already watching you.
Yeah.
They're already they can intercept
They figured it out.
The other thing that this is something that baffles me about the Wizarding world, right? Presumably, if you want to enchant an object, right, it's just a case of like you learn the spell, you do it, right?
Right.
So if you wanted to make something fly, say, if you wanted to make a flying object that you rode upon, like a broom, right? Presumably, you would just get a broomstick and then cast the spell that makes it fly to your command on it, right? So how does one company make a branded broom that happens to be faster than all the other brooms?
That keeps coming up too.
Right, every book.
Every book there's a new, faster broom. Like, and why does it have to be a broom?
Are they
like,
inventing? Are they inventing new broom magic?
Well, my thing is about it is like.
We really should get on to the other book.
We should, but like, this is something that's been kind of bothering me. All right, why brooms? Okay, like I get it. Like I get it. Witches fly on brooms, and that's why. So it's like ha ha ha. It's a cute little wink and nod. I get that. All right, I understand that. But like, what about it being a broom makes it like a flyable device? Like, could it just be a stick? Like, doesn't need the bristles at the end. And if it's a broom, does it also clean? Like, is there,
Right, and to jump ahead for a moment, we establish in the second book that you can make a flying car. So why aren't they all just traveling around in their own... Like, take off the wheels, but why don't they all just have wizard cars? They're
Right.
just brooms for 4 people. Boxes,
I mean, there's actually another point later on in the books where they're, like, the broom companies are trying to, like, strong arm the magic carpet people. Because, like, you can hold more people on a carpet. I'm like, or a fucking plane. Like, just...
Yeah. It's a strange choice. And the thing is, and none of this avoids all the hazards. Like, it's not safer on a broom than in, like, a little one-man plane. Anyway, so that was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It's very much a... is it a good member of the AdaptNation or a bad?
It's fine. It's
very much a kid's movie, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we're going to talk about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
One year ago, he learned the truth,
You're a wizard, Harry.
and his first year at Hogwarts School became legend. And so, for Harry Potter and his friends, another year begins.
Bloody bird's a menace.
Their education in the magical arts continues.
Pixies.
Laugh if you will, Mr. Finnegan. See what you make of them. No!
Old rivalries grow stronger.
Slytherin's got a new seeker.
Malfoy. You'll never catch me, Potter!
And something in the school's dark past will be awakened.
The Chamber of Secrets has indeed been opened.
Unless the culprit is caught, it is likely the school will be closed. Harry Potter must go home.
Oh dear, we are in trouble.
Here's the plan. You disguise yourselves as Crab and Goyle.
Are we going to drink that?
Yes.
Harry?
Ron. Excellent.
This year, Warner Brothers Pictures presents
How dare you steal that car!
the next chapter of Harry Potter, where the past will return and the struggle for the future of Hogwarts will begin. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Let us hope that Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day.
Don't worry. I will be.
I'm going to do my little plot summary here. 1 year after the first Harry Potter movie, 1 summer afterwards, Harry is back living with the Dursleys, and he's pretty miserable because his friends from Hogwarts haven't been writing to him. He's currently shut up in his room because his uncle Vernon has some very important guests around and he's not supposed to disturb them, when he finds a little creature in his room called Dobby, who is a house elf, who tells him that someone is plotting to harm him if he goes back to Hogwarts, and that he should not go back to Hogwarts under any circumstances. Harry Potter tells him that no, he is going to go back to Hogwarts, so Dobby sort of deliberately gets him into trouble by dropping a cake on... oh no, is it a cake? Yeah, it is a cake in this one. A cake on one of the guests and getting him in trouble, so the Dursleys ground him in his room. In the middle of the night, the Weasleys rescue him in a flying car by pulling up against his window and taking him away to the Burrow, which is where the Weasleys live. There they all proceed on to Hogwarts, and traditional programming resumes. Harry goes back to classes. Everything's normal for a while until the janitor's cat, Mrs. Norris, turns up dead, and a message is scrawled on the wall that says, "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened, the heir has returned." What follows is kind of a murder mystery where students keep turning up petrified, essentially frozen, completely unable to move, while Harry is hearing the voices of a murderous voice in his head periodically, and begins to believe he may be partly to blame, as the other students also begin to believe he's partly to blame. Later, Harry finds a diary that when you write in it, it writes back to you, and it tells him about a time when 50 years previously the Chamber of Secrets was opened and some deaths occurred, and Hagrid was believed to be responsible. Hagrid is, as they believe that it is tied to the events 50 years earlier, Hagrid is sent away to prison, and he leaves a last word of warning, which is to follow the spiders. So Harry and Ron follow all these spiders that are leaving Hogwarts, where they find that Harry has been feeding and befriending a giant spider in the forest that he used to keep as a pet. The spider informs them that Hagrid did not open the Chamber of Secrets, and that previously the Chamber of Secrets was opened by somebody who set Hagrid up a little bit. And the diary was a guy... The person writing in the diary was a person called Tom Riddle, who used to go in Hogwarts 50 years previously too. Harry and Ron piece together the clues using the diary and a ghost called Moaning Myrtle, who turns out to be the ghost of one of the students who was killed 50 years ago when the chamber was opened. They travel to the Chamber of Secrets by finding its opening in the girls' toilets, where else would it be, and find that there is a hall under Hogwarts which houses a basilisk, a giant snake creature that is controlled by the haunted remains, almost a ghost of the character called Tom Riddle, who is inhabiting this diary that he imbued his personality into, and that Tom Riddle is actually the young name of Lord Voldemort. Harry defeats the basilisk with the aid of Professor Dumbledore's Phoenix, and stabs the diary with a basilisk tooth, killing and yet another version of Voldemort. Did I miss anything hugely vital? Maybe Ginny's involvement.
Well, Ginny, yes.
Ginny, if we're talking about the books, not so much Ginny if we're talking about the movie. She's less important. Alright, so first question. Were you familiar with the... We can skip these. We can answer this. Okay, so second question then. Does this work as an adaptation of the book?
Once again, I think, it pretty much follows the book. There's a little bit more departure. This will be a running theme with all of the movies going forward, is that increasingly departing from the book. But
well, the books also get longer, so it's a necessity, really. I would say the big deviation from the book here is the book spends a long time with this diary.
Yeah.
Whereas the movie really brings the diary in as much as it needs to for the plot to still make sense, but doesn't spend excess time with it, I would say.
Yeah. And I think the other big difference is, to jump right kind of to the conclusion here, is it's not a huge departure, but it's a sort of a weird change in, like, implication. In the book, the implication is that Tom Riddle has kind of manipulated Ginny Weasley to perform these acts, through just kind of being there for her in a weird way. Like, she's lonely, and he just kind of talks to her. And eventually,
it's her first year at boarding school.
Right. And he talks to her into this just by being kind of like being a friend.
They do suggest there's a magical element, but it's more like the kind of, almost like The Shining. The longer you spend in the hotel around the malign influences, the more it starts to work on you.
Right. In the movie, I feel like they really kind of imply that, like, he just straight up uses, like, mind control.
I think the movie just didn't have the time with the book to really suggest anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Ginny's barely in it, actually. She really isn't in it enough to sell that side of things. So you have to have the book have more power. Yeah, I think this one's pretty close to the book in all meaningful ways. I don't necessarily think we need to talk too much about how this works as an adaptation directly, because, broadly speaking, we're only talking about the design of the Wizarding World, which is better here, I think. The budget's gone up a little bit. But, again, this is as close... I agree with you. This is as close as the first one was. So it kind of lives and dies based on how well it manages to communicate the second book. Is there anything you want to say about it specifically as an adaptation? Anything else, or should we move on?
I mean, once again, like, my issue with the first one, same here. The Ron. Like, that... They go even further into... I think we get to a point very soon where, because, well, no, I guess maybe not, because the timelines don't really match up. maybe not. So I guess what I'm saying is like I almost feel like we almost get like this weird Ouroboros effect with Ron, where he's not very cowardly in these books, and then he is kind of cowardly in the movies, and then you start to see the more cowardness come out in the books.
Right, maybe. Yeah,
but the timelines don't really match up. But
I think Ron, the difficulty is they wanted to make Harry look braver, whereas I think in the books at least Harry's supposed to seem very normal, very baseline, whereas in the movies they want him to be a little bit more of a hero rather than just a normal kid who usually does the right thing, you know?
Right.
What I will say, adaptations, I think this movie's got some really good casting. I think Kenneth Branagh as Lockhart is excellent. I couldn't imagine that any better from the book. Do you know what I mean?
No, right. Yeah, that was absolutely spot on. That was
only a small role, but I like Professor Sprout, Miriam Margolyes. I think that's a nice little bit of casting. I thought Tom Riddle was good.
Tom Riddle was good. You know, I thought was actually really cool. Like how they made the journal work. That was really kind of cool in the movie. That was a legit cool effect how they did.
Very
that.
Nice visually, very nice visually, and it's only a little thing.
Spooky, you know.
But even the I am Tom Riddle, I am Lord Voldemort moment, kind of nice.
Okay, hold on. Let's pause on that.
Although
moment.
Rushed a bit.
Really, it would have been much more interesting, to me, if Tom Riddle's middle name wasn't Marvolo.
Well, yeah, but that's in the book, you know.
No, exactly. I get it. Like this is a grumble I have with the book as well as the movie. Like you can't. It can't be this weird like revelation where it's like, oh my god, if you piece the words together, it says I am Lord Voldemort. When you gave him the most like,
my name's Lord I Am. Oh, what's your middle name? Voldemort.
It's a riddle. But I mean, it's a good, suspenseful moment. It's just like a really.
You know, it would have been okay if they'd introduced Marvolo earlier. If they didn't leave it to the last minute, because if they introduced it earlier, yes, you might guess it, but at least you'd have it in your head. You'd go, "Oh, that was hiding in plain sight the whole time." But without seeing the Marvolo sooner, it's not hiding in plain sight the whole time. It feels like she just suddenly bought a whole load of extra letters to make it work. And the thing is, I bet you could have a better anagram for Voldemort, for Lord Voldemort. I bet you could do one. You've still got Tom in there.
Well, let's see here. We can bring up like an anagram generator. These exist.
Okay, let's do it.
Anagram maker. Here we go.
Okay, so hold on. What I'm going to do is, let's assume we're still going to go... Okay, here we go. I'm going to put Lord Voldemort in. Anagrams. Delmore Dorvault. That was alright.
DDT Mo Rollover.
Yeah, there's a lot, you know. Elmo Old Tor VD. You know, there's different shapes you could go with.
Dev Drool Morty.
Alright, let's do it. Let's just talk about the movie. Alright.
Yep.
Chamber of Secrets as a movie. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a substantial improvement on the first one.
I agree.
By visually and, acting chops. I mean, these kids are getting a little older. I was kind of surprised how much older they kind of seemed.
They do, but I guess it's because they're filming it kind of like that sweet spot, Well,
where... it's like they filmed Philosopher or Sorcerer Stone. Fuck you. They filmed that, and then like, all right, we wrapped. Hey, great job, Daniel. Hey, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, everybody's a lot older. The acting is so much better. Like, it's gone from insufferably bad to I can forget about it for a minute now. You know?
Right.
The acting's substantially better across the board. So here's the thing. I think this is probably one of my favorite Harry Potter movies and maybe books. I think it comes from that golden era where it's still about the stuff most people associate Harry Potter with being about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a much more solid story. I mean, fundamentally, the nice thing about it is the murder mystery works, you know? Even though nobody gets murdered. But you know what I mean? The trying to identify the culprit and the basilisk climbing through the walls and the clue that... You know, like, all this thing about him hearing voices and then the later revelation that, oh no, he can speak to snakes and there's a snake that's been climbing through the walls all the time. It works, you know? It works fine. I think visually the tone is beautiful. I think it finds a nice balance between where the first movie jumped between moments of like utter childlike oh, we're opening presents on Christmas to, oh, two kids are going to confront a man who eats unicorns.
Right.
Chamber of Secrets is much, much, much more consistent. They're the kids who get petrified. They're played like deaths, but they're not incredibly graphic, horrible deaths, and those kids come back. So it's got a nice balance of sort of, it's fine as a family-friendly movie, but it's actually tense. You feel those kids... Over the course of this movie, those kids in Hogwarts get more and more concerned for their lives. You pick up on that tone that they feel under threat, you know? Mind you, this is the tone of every Harry Potter book and movie. They spend every year at Hogwarts convinced something's gonna kill them. So,
and they're not wrong.
Right.
Like, I mean, all those kids who get frozen, for all intents and purposes, should be dead.
Yes.
But they every single one of them got really lucky. You know?
Absolutely. But the tone of the movie is really good. That scene where you actually see the Hagrid flashback that's all black and white kind of works. Feels a little like it's better than I expected for the movie, and the fact that Hagrid, you find out why he was expelled and what went down there, and it's very fitting with, oh, there's a monster, some people died, the Chamber of Secrets is open, all that stuff. But then yes, it wasn't that monster, but it fits in completely with what you know about Hagrid from the first story, and that he has this thing about buying creatures literally nobody else would want to be around for 30 seconds. Because he just thinks they're cute. I think this is a really solid film. I enjoyed watching it again, and I think in all the ways the first one doesn't work, I think this is, for what it is, for what it's trying to be, I don't really think you could do much better. I think it's, within what it's going for, I think it's sort of perfect.
Yeah, I mean, like... I think also it has the best, so far, source material to work with.
Yes, I mean, it's fair to say Chamber of Secrets is a much better book than Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm. And I honestly, like, I mean, I hate to keep saying this, but we will get into this. I know a lot of people love Prisoner of Azkaban. I still think Chamber of Secrets is actually a more tightly plotted book.
I've grown that way. I think Azkaban's ending lets it down a lot, actually.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is these first three books especially all do this thing, and I don't know. I've really gone back and forth about, is this a symptom of them being designed for young kids, or is this a symptom of J.K. Rowling kind of being new to the writing game at this point? But like the first three books especially, and this one especially, well, actually no, Prisoner is actually worse than this, but this one does it as well, where they really don't tell you much through the whole thing, and then at the end they kind of really just hit you with something that wasn't really there through the rest of the book. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a Deus Ex Machina, but like these explanations that they have at the end, and there's like these really long chunks of exposition at the end of like Sorcerer's Stone.
Are you talking about like Fawkes? He's introduced quite late in the book to save the day, isn't he?
A little bit, but not necessarily him. My big thing is actually with Ginny, right? Because like you definitely don't see this in the movie, and they do not reference this at all in the book. But the person who's been like putting the signs on the wall, or who's been painting on the walls and stuff like that, has been Ginny, Ginny Weasley. And in the book, they explain like, oh yeah, she went and killed the chickens, and she did this and did and did this, but all you get is like Hagrid, like, oh yeah, something's killing the chickens, but they give you literally no hint that it could possibly be Ginny, which makes it to me kind of a shitty reveal. I feel like there should be at least one little nugget somewhere in the book or the movie.
It's been a while since I read the book, but I seem to remember there's lots of moments with Ginny where she's clearly sort of struggling at school earlier on. But it has been a while since I read it, so...
I mean, no, I don't remember. I don't remember them... I mean, really up until this point, Ginny has, like, two... like, things that happen to her in the book before this reveal. One is, oh yeah, she has a crush on Harry Potter, right? They established that real early. And two, she finds out that Percy, her older brother, has a girlfriend, and she tries to tell the others about it, but Percy won't let her.
Right.
That's like it. There's no there's really no reference to her doing anything. Like, if there had been like one scene, right, where they would have been like, and this could have been in the movie or the book, if it would have just been like a real quick shot of Ginny, and like she had like a chicken feather on her shoulder,
right,
or just something like that.
Yeah, something like that. No, I see what you mean. I think that's probably fair. Okay. So, I forgot what I was going to say. So do you like the movie?
Yeah, I think it was fine. It's, the issue, like, there's a section in the middle that I particularly don't like, but it's not the movie's fault. I don't particularly care for spiders.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point of the scene, isn't it? They're supposed to be.
And it goes on. It never ends. That scene goes on for so long. And like the whole time I'm like, oh God, please make this scene end. That was also like a real shitty thing for that spider to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's perfectly in keeping with the character of Hagrid, though, don't you think? Like,
sure.
He is completely of his conclusion that every single one of his hideous creatures is the nicest, loveliest thing to ever grace the planet, and every single one of them's awful, except maybe Buckbeak.
Right.
They're all pretty terrible. So I'm going to talk about some things I like about this movie.
Okay.
Right off the bat, I think it's way easier to get into and enjoy than Philosopher's Stone. Like, Philosopher's Stone, you sit and you watch it to go, okay, I'm watching the first one. This one, you watch it, and you can enjoy it, I think. The tense bits are tense, the funny bits are funny. I love Gilderoy Lockhart in the book. I love Gilderoy Lockhart in this film. I think that character's funny. Like, legitimately really funny. Possibly one of the funniest characters in this whole franchise. The idea that... I mean, what I like the most about it is, as these books run, you get a different Defense Against the Dark Arts professor pretty much every book for a while. First three, you get a different person each time. And the idea that, like, okay, well, last time, turns out we accidentally hired Voldemort. Maybe this time we should get someone, you know, with some credentials and stuff. So they hire this guy who, he's basically like a celebrity wizard. Right. He's written all these books, and they seem to be like the equivalent of like Arctic survival books for wizards. You know, like, oh, I went and I survived against the trolls, and I
mean, it feels very much like he's like the Bear Grylls.
Right.
Of.
But he's completely shameless, completely self-interested. And as it goes, you have this... Early on, they play up this thing of like, oh, all the girls love him, and all the guys think he's basically full of shit. But you soon discover that every teacher at Hogwarts also thinks he's full of shit too.
Right.
To the point where Snape seems to be actively trying to get him killed.
I mean, this really does establish, like... So, like, this is going to be more of a criticism on, like, the series as a whole, rather than... But I think there's enough in Chamber to suggest this. There's this big running thing about, like, how Dumbledore is, like, the greatest wizard of all time. And how Voldemort is scared of him and stuff like that. I'm thinking, like, why? Like, this guy's a goddamn lunatic. Like, Dumbledore has to be stopped.
Dumbledore is very oversold. Particularly the first two movies where he's played by the same actor, and you get a feeling that a stiff breeze could knock him down. I mean, Richard Harris, great actor, but he died very shortly after recording Chamber of Secrets.
He was on his way during the filming of these.
I'm not entirely sure he didn't go before the end of filming Chamber of Secrets, and they left some of it in, to be honest. He's not a bad Dumbledore. I think when Michael Gambon takes over, he plays it better, because you get a Dumbledore who seems to be connected enough that it looks like what he's doing is deliberate. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Richard Harris Dumbledore, I mean, he seems like half the clever stuff he does happens by accident. There's also this really annoying trend of, like, oh, I can tell if Harry's near me in an invisibility cloak with my magic powers of perception, but 3 movies in a row, I can't tell you if he's asleep or not while I'm whispering loudly.
I mean, just some of the other things he does too, where it's like, once again, he signs off on sending these kids into a forest, right? Like, he's cool with that. He was it in this one, or was it I can't.
In Chamber, what did he do? We sent him into the forest in Philosopher's Stone.
Right. Okay, no, I'm thinking of something else. So they're like, oh yeah, we searched the school high and low for this Chamber of Secrets, and we could never find it. Lo and behold, the entrance to the chamber is in a bathroom, which, to be fair, like, well hidden, except for the fact there's a giant snake carving on the side of a faucet.
What I love is they go, only Salazar Slytherin or his heir could get in. Salazar Slytherin is known for being one of the very few wizards who could speak to snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't go, well, let's get someone who can speak to snakes in.
Right.
What I want to know is, every time did they... Because, like, snakes are always appearing in these, by the way. A lot of spells cast snakes and stuff. Every time a snake went past that bathroom, did they just open it up again? Like... Yeah, I mean, I think Dumbledore... The problem is she oversells Dumbledore, right? If she wrote him more as if he was, like, almost this absentee headmaster... And then you had the other moments. If he had all the moments he always does, but the rest of the time people weren't talking about how great he was, it would work a little better, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be quite so... But as it is, you're always going, oh, Dumbledore. Well, my favorite's in the first one, when Hermione says, don't worry, Voldemort, when they find he's in the forest, who's the wizard he was always the most scared of? It was Dumbledore. As long as Dumbledore's in Hogwarts, we'll all be safe. And then the very next scene, Dumbledore's not here. He's gone. He's off.
Well, it's also like... it's like, don't worry. Dumbledore's whole being is surrounded by keeping you kids safe. He also put a giant 3-headed man-eating dog in the school...
Also,
and didn't block off the section. He just goes, "Hey, don't go there." Doesn't do anything else.
These are not his priorities either, because he's blatantly aware that Harry's going to find the Chamber of Secrets. His plan relies on it.
Yeah.
He also introduces Harry to a phoenix that will be critical later on, and the hat, and things like that, all this information, right? His plan is fundamentally reliant on Harry being so loyal to Dumbledore that a phoenix comes to help him, right?
Right.
And then he even goes to comment on how unlikely that is, right? Dumbledore's running like a worship cult here, like a cult of personality.
Right. He's the Jim Jones.
If you can swear allegiance to Dumbledore the hardest, my bird will save you from the giant snake, but not otherwise. How many children died in the Chamber of Secrets and failed the Phoenix test first, right? Every year, Dumbledore opens it up, you know? Like, alright, who's gonna go to the slab today? Testing my worth. Chamber of Secrets.
Fight for me.
Chamber of Secrets is a cracking set, though. Considering the finale of the first movie took place in like the worst set. Chamber of Secrets is great, right?
Oh yeah. I love. I really like the. I mean, it's one of those things where it's also kind of like antithesis to that whole like, oh, it's a secret, but it's like, how did you guys not notice at all like this massive cavern under the bathroom with huge snake statues?
Right.
And...
Say what you like about Muggles, right? But we've got to do the plumbing, so we find shit like that.
Right. It's like
we've actually got to get into the pipes. We don't just like build a whole new bathroom every time.
I mean, when I saw that, all I could think was like, you guys don't have like a sonar spell? Just like this is not hard to figure out. There's a massive empty space under your building. Like, this is a really easy thing to figure out.
I'll just get the blueprints and be like, no doors connect to anything on here. The whole like vast empty space in the building here. What's going on? Nothing on the blueprints here.
Oh, that would be the thing too. It'd be like the blueprints for Hogwarts is probably like 6 like blue colored fingerprints that, if they're layered on top of each other, makes a rough sketch of the building.
But only if you don't want to see them.
Right. If you're the architect who isn't supposed to build it, you know.
So what was cut out of this one, I guess? So the things, I feel like there is some stuff cut out of this, but it's mostly in terms of nothing's cut out from this movie. It's just that there's lots of stuff in this movie that only happens once, that in the book happens several times. Like,
right.
Colin Creevey, the photographer, right?
Oh God.
That works in the book because he's annoying and Harry's annoyed by him, but then he basically turns up dead, right? So you're like, oh, that's kind of sad.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like a big deal, like through the whole book. That's not really here in the movie. Is this implication that it's Harry doing it, right?
Yes, without a doubt. Even the moment where the snake's summoned and everybody thinks he, during the duel when they accidentally produce the snake, and they discover he's a parcel mouth. Yeah, it doesn't, because the big running thread in the book is he's hearing these voices, so even he starts to think he's doing it.
Right.
But eventually he realizes he's hearing voices because he can literally hear the snake and understand what it's saying. It doesn't really work. And you know what? Dumbledore didn't do anything in this one. He didn't. He just... Would the Phoenix have come even if Dumbledore wasn't there? I don't know. I don't know if I have too much else to say about this one, though. I can criticize it a lot, but I actually really like this one. I think this is...
Yeah, it has a really good feel to it, good tone. And, I'm actually kind of glad that it didn't really shy away from some of the violence at the end.
Yeah. It's like a perfect encapsulation for me of what Harry Potter is when it's firing on all cylinders at its best. It's this as a movie.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'll ask you then. Do you think that this is a good citizen or bad citizen of the AdaptNation?
A good citizen.
I would agree.
What did we say about Philosopher's Stone? Did we say yes or no?
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it's a fine citizen.
It's it doesn't vote in every election, but it hits the important ones.
All right, Prisoner of Azkaban then.
Turn to page 394.
Little old lady at 12 o'clock! 3, 2...
Yes! Sirius Black has escaped from Azkaban prison. He's a murderer.
Sirius Black is the reason the Potters are dead.
And now he wants to finish what he started.
I want you to swear to me you won't go looking for Black. Why would I go looking for someone who wants to kill me?
There's something moving out there.
It was a Dementor. One of the guards of Azkaban is searching the train for Sirius Black.
It is not in the nature of a Dementor to be forgiving.
I hope he finds me. Because when he does, I'm going to be ready.
You must look beyond.
Filthy little mudblood.
Foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach! That felt good.
Expecto Patronum!
Okay. Harry Potter's been going to Hogwarts for 3 years now. He's in his 3rd year at home with the Dursleys when he discovers that his aunt is coming to visit, who is a Dursley, and he does not like her very much. She says some quite insulting things about his family, and he gets very upset, and so he unintentionally turns her into a giant balloon, and she flies away across London. Harry becomes quite concerned about this because he realizes that he's used illegitimate magic and annoyed his family, so he runs away where he discovers a thing called the Night Bus that he uses to carry him all the way to the Leaky Cauldron. The Night Bus is basically like a magic bus for wizards that turns up when you need one, even though we've never seen it before, and a bus would have been handy. Yeah. They get to the Leaky Cauldron where Harry meets Cornelius Fudge, who is a man from the Ministry of Magic, who tells him that he shouldn't have run away. He's got to be getting to Hogwarts now because there's a lot of danger going on because there's actually a criminal on the loose who's escaped from Azkaban, which is the wizard prison. And the criminal is a man called Sirius Black. Meanwhile, while they're down there, we didn't really talk about Dobby much in the previous one, by the way.
But, fuck Dobby.
But while he's there, he meets up with Ron and Hermione, who are currently embroiled in a row because Hermione has a cat that keeps trying to kill Ron's rat, Scabbers. They head on to Hogwarts, where Hogwarts is in peril again because everyone's convinced that the escaped criminal is going to murder everybody. Meanwhile, Harry's a little depressed because this year all the students get to go to a village near the castle called Hogsmeade, but he can't go because you need a permission slip from your guardian, and his guardians are shitty people. So, he doesn't get to go to Hogsmeade. Because he doesn't get to go to Hogsmeade, officially, Fred and George, Ron's brothers, give him a map that they discovered in their first year called the Marauders Map, which is a map that shows you where everybody is in Hogwarts, as well as a lot of secret passageways and things like that. Plus, you can basically make it blank when you need to. He uses this map to start traveling down to Hogsmeade, where he overhears a conversation between Cornelius Fudge and Professor McGonagall, basically explaining that Sirius Black is on his way to Hogwarts because he's specifically looking for Harry Potter, because Sirius Black is a follower of Voldemort who betrayed his parents when they were young, and he's the reason Voldemort tracked them down and killed them. And he's sort of trying to finish the job, essentially, and help Voldemort's rise to ascension by killing Harry Potter. So Harry starts to get very concerned. Meanwhile, they have a new teacher called Professor Lupin, who teaches Harry how to fight Dementors, who are the prison guards of Azkaban that are hanging around Hogwarts because they are looking for Sirius Black, and Harry has quite a strong reaction to them. Events progress. Eventually, they discover that Sirius Black has found his way into Hogwarts, and they start to track him down, where they do eventually corner him after Harry discovers that there's someone called Peter Pettigrew on the map who was supposed to have died around about the same time Sirius Black betrayed their parents. But they track him down. It all comes to a culmination in the Leaky Cauldron, where they discover that Sirius Black has indeed returned to Hogwarts because he's actually coming to kill Peter Pettigrew, who has been in hiding all these years as Ron's rat Scabbers, and Professor Lupin is also his old friend. Professor Lupin is a werewolf, and there's a big... This is where it starts getting very confusing. There's a big culmination of events in which they all kind of have a confrontation, but it gradually turns out that Sirius Black was not the person who betrayed the parents. It was Peter Pettigrew, who is technically Ron's rat. And they capture Peter Pettigrew and clear Sirius's name in the movie, sort of. They imply that. That's not really what happens in the book, so it's kind of confusing. And after that, they go save a hippogriff with a time machine. That's the plot. That's what happens. So John, were you familiar with this?
Yes. Next.
Did I miss anything hugely vital?
No, I would say no. I guess.
All right. Yeah, you've all seen Prisoner of Azkaban. You know what it's about. So, tell me, John, what did you think of this as an adaptation?
Well, I mean, we've been saying this the whole way, but
I've got one big stinking comment about this one.
Okay.
Carry on.
That I think this one definitely starts to deviate more than the others. I mean, here's the thing: like, none of these Harry Potter movies, no matter how far ahead, really deviate really from the plot. We're not talking like Game of Thrones level, where like, oh, someone died who wasn't supposed to.
No.
Sort of thing. You're never going to get that with these movies, but
I think it's one of those rare occasions where a lot of people had read the books as well.
Right. I think when we're talking about variations, for me, the biggest one is always like what is like more heavily implied, right? Or like the tone of things.
For sure.
I mean, I think like in the movie they definitely cut down amount. It's okay. So this is one I get kind of sad about. Because one thing I like the most about the books is, I think Prisoner is the first book that really, I don't want to say features, but includes like other students. Like, I mean, there's a big kind of long thing with what's her name, Lavender Brown and
yes,
Pavel Patel.
Yep, those characters start to come to the fore a lot more, and they never really get their due in the films. I don't think.
No. They kind of start showing up, like even like a. Well, I mean, this one, Cedric is supposed to be introduced in Prisoner, right? And he is not in the movie. Maybe Robert Pattinson was busy or something. But well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that, right? Where it just
can I tell you my big issue with it?
What's that?
So I think this movie includes all the most important events of the plot. I think it leaves out one huge, critically important piece of exposition.
Well, okay. I have an important thing as well. I wonder if it can be the same.
This movie doesn't explain the relationship between Lupin, James, Scabbers,
right, yes,
and Sirius. And it doesn't explain who made the Marauders map and why.
Right.
And that's such a pivotally important part of this plot. I don't know why they cut it. I can't even begin to understand why they didn't include it.
Yeah.
Because it's hugely significant, I would say.
I mean, maybe not like hugely significant in terms of like how these events play out, but like
why?
Emotionally,
why.
yeah.
If you want, well, I mean, it doesn't really tell you why. So, in this book, so for people who don't know, in the book Prisoner of Azkaban, what we discover is that Professor Lupin is a werewolf, and when he was a student in Hogwarts, his three best friends, James Potter, Peter Pettigrew, and Sirius Black, learned to be animaguses, which is one of the most difficult things you can do in magic, which is to be able to transform into an animal. Essentially to continue being his friend while he was a werewolf, right? And out of some support and solidarity, right? Do they ever explain that in this movie?
Nope.
So you're left with this issue of, okay, so Sirius Black can turn into a dog. Why? I mean, they explain what an animagus is, but they don't explain why are there all of a sudden there's all these animaguses for no reason in the movie.
Well, and then like, it wasn't even so much like as a bunch of brotherhood. Like, I want to say like they specifically picked the animals that they thought they could keep him in check.
A little bit.
Yeah, like I remember that from the book, basically saying like, hey, we picked animals, like me and Sirius explained, like me and James, we picked animals that we tried to become animals that we thought could, basically hold Sirius at bay when he changed, but Peter could never pull it off. He went to a rat.
Right. And the story of Peter Pettigrew is not just a story of a guy who betrayed them. It's one of these four incredibly close friends who betrays them. Because they never explain that he's one of the group. He's one of the four friends. And the connection to the map. This to me feels like it was made with the assumption that everyone who saw it would have read the book anyway, so they were like, well, we don't have to put that in.
Well, I mean, yeah, because like the big emotional impact, right, is that apparently there's a point in history, or not like distant history, but where James and Lily Potter, Harry Potter's parents, know that Voldemort's coming for them, that they're marked next. Like, Voldemort has decided he's going to kill them for whatever reason. I don't think they really give a reason. He just says, "You're next."
Right. Sirius Black is their most trusted confidant, their closest friend.
So they decide to go into hiding, and they're going to basically make it a huge secret, and it's a big spell. But the only way that it works is that they have to have one person to hang on to the secret. And for all intents and purposes, everyone thinks that it was Sirius, that they gave the secret to Sirius, and then he went and told Voldemort. Voldemort showed up, killed him, blah, blah. Which, that's a huge emotional impact, right? Because when Harry hears that, he hears that version of the story.
Right. And that's like, sad enough.
Yeah. What you find out later, right, is that Sirius, and kind of rightfully so, thinks that, this is not a good idea. Me holding the secret isn't a good idea because everyone knows that James is like my best friend. They're going to assume me first. Like, they're going to come for me first and they're going to get it. So what I'll do is I'll actually give the secret to Peter Pettigrew because no one's going to think he is the secret holder. Like, he's a little bitch. Like, no one's going to assume him. But it turns out Sirius gets it wrong, and Peter has been working for Voldemort and now has the secret.
Right.
Right.
And in the movie, this is reduced to, we thought Sirius betrayed you, but actually it was Peter Pettigrew who knew for some reason.
It's really poorly explained in the movie.
I can't imagine watching this film. I mean, if you'd watched this film and you hadn't read the book, that ending would just be a rush of sudden twists for no reason, right?
Right.
Whereas actually in the book, it's quite well plotted, the way it all plans out, the way it all unfolds. I think that section.
I agree. I still don't care how it's executed because I mean, there's like chapters at the end of that book where it's just exposition.
I think that bit works for the most part because it's all been very established and clean. It's the time travel stuff I don't love, but yeah, that to me that is the big weakness with that movie, leaving out leaving out essentially the heart of the story, I think. And it's a pity because I think up until that ending, it looks like it's all going to be there, right? You know?
Right, yeah. Like, I feel like they make a choice, and it's definitely I don't necessarily fault them for it in a weird way, because we're dealing with the movie, right? When people are kind of going to this movie to kind of see like a spectacle, right? Having a 30 to 45 minute scene at the end where they just take turns explaining what actually happened may be boring. It could have been kind of boring, right? But what we get is that we actually get like a more extended fight scene with Lupin when he turns into a werewolf, because that's not really in the book that much.
It just sort of happens, and then it rolls to the time turner sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, in this one, we get a much longer sequence with that, and then that goes like right into the whole Dementor scene.
It genuinely makes me feel sad for people who've only experienced this story through the film. I think. It feels like a loss to me. Anyway. There's other stuff too, like there's that weird bit, like we don't get that ending where... this really irritates me actually. So, in the Harry Potter... In the book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, we learn, as we do in the movie, that Sirius Black is Harry's godfather. Mm-hmm. And the way this comes around is, after all this, the sad ending to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is Harry learns that Sirius Black was innocent, but they don't manage to officially clear his name.
Right.
So Sirius makes this offer to Harry, which is, when this is all done and my name's cleared, you can come live with me. You won't have to live with the Dursleys anymore. Won't that be great? But they don't follow through with that because they can't do that. It's that happy future is snatched away from him. The movie doesn't really establish that. It doesn't really establish that they haven't legitimately cleared his name either. It sort of looks like they have. But then he doesn't go to live with them. So they also cut off the sort of the consent letter at the end, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you still have Hermione going, what's this with it? With the broom? And
right.
It feels like pieces are missing, I think.
Well, so here's like my big question. And I kind of have a question about this book as well. Like, why are they accepting that letter? Like,
yeah.
It's like for all anyone knows, except for Dumbledore, right? Who believes that Sirius is innocent.
My murderous godfather says I can go.
Right. All right. Well, shit. Well played.
Not that it comes up in this book. Maybe he got the Dursley signature after that.
I guess.
But the way it comes up in the book, it's like, this is what Azkaban was all about in the end. After all, wasn't this what we were fighting for all along? Harry's permission slip?
It's just... You know what else I got in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
And I have watched Goblet of Fire as well.
Okay.
So I feel confirmed in saying this. I remember watching the movie for Azkaban, and I got this feeling way more than I got from reading the books. But it really comes through in the movie where it's like, oh, so this is where the fun ends. Like this movie kind of takes a weirdly serious turn, where like all like the little gags and jokes in it don't fit. Like they don't.
And I don't think the book takes the same turn. I think the book leans towards more serious, but it doesn't take that immediate, hey, everything's blue now.
Right.
Everything's... You know what I mean?
It's weird. Even Hermione's very pink sweater that she's wearing seems kind of...
blue. Yeah.
Gray. Yeah. Just...
So, not to spoil things, by the way, but wait till you get to Half-Blood Prince. That is That is I will say this and only this about it. Have you ever tried watching a TV show with like eclipse glasses on? It's one of the darkest movies I've ever seen, and I don't mean the tone. Man, I wish I liked this movie. So I liked this book. This was the second Harry Potter book I read. And for a long time, it was one of my favorites. My favorite these days is probably now Goblet of Fire as a book, but I still like this one a lot. I think it's really good, and I think it's very well plotted, and the only thing I don't like is I don't think the time turner thing works. It feels added on in the last minute just to resolve the Buckbeak plot. I don't like this film.
Say Buckbeak plot.
Buckbeak plot. It's not easy, is it? I don't like this film. This is probably like, I wish if it wasn't for the horrendous acting in the first one, this would be my least favorite of the three.
Right.
But it is at least mostly for most of the time watchable. But whatever weaknesses are in the book, this one magnifies like 100-fold, I think. I think the time turner stuff comes across way worse in this one. They've got a new Dumbledore, but they feel like they don't want to show Michael Gambon too much in case it throws you off.
Well, you know what? The little bit they did throw me off, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this, right? And I'm going to try to do my best impression of the differences between the two Dumbledores, okay?
Okay.
The Dumbledore in the first two movies is, okay. Alright. In third one, he's like, listen up, you sons of bitches! I am Dumbledore, and you will fucking recognize me! It's like, whoa! Like, you got real intense, real fast, Dumble.
It's a very different take.
I feel like at a certain point, someone was explaining to the actor, like, okay, well, Dumbledore is an elderly wizard. He's the most powerful wizard, and he's feared among dark wizards for his power. Got it. No. There's more. There's like a lovable. No. I heard feared. On it. What?
Comes in like fucking Walter White. I am the one who knocks.
No, I'm the one who pocuses the hocuses.
Do you like this film, John? Tell me. You talk for a bit. I talk for a bit.
No, I didn't, honestly.
Did you like the book?
I did. I liked the book well enough. And I'm happy to say that this is the last one that has done the big explaining everything at the very last minute sort of thing. I mean, Goblet had a little bit of that, but I like the book.
It's a longer book though too, so the last minute's not the same thing.
Yeah, this one I liked a lot because I liked the book a lot because this is the first time we kind of started to see, like, how do I explain this? The kind of turning gears outside of Hogwarts.
Right.
Like, the first kind of implication of, like, the wizarding world outside of, like I said, like, outside of Hogwarts. We always knew it was there, and they reference it. But this is the kind of first time, like, hearing about stories of what it was like when Voldemort was in power.
I actually quite like, it's not in the movie, but the very, very, very opening of the book, when you can basically see Harry Potter, he's just crashed out listening to the news, trying to read between the lines in what the Muggle world interprets to be happening.
Right.
I think that's kind of a nice scene, you know? That is this one, isn't it? I think it is this one.
Sort of.
Maybe I'm thinking of one of the others. Anyway.
But yeah, like the idea of, okay, James and Lily had to go into hiding, and they kind of organized this big, like, plot to keep them hidden, right? That's kind of a cool feeling to me. Like, it sucks, I guess, for them, but like there's this kind of like interesting.
But their tragedy is my entertainment.
You're damn right. But like the idea of like having to smuggle someone and hide them from someone evil, and that everyone's trying to work together to like counteract Voldemort, but in like kind of small secret ways. It's
right.
It's not outright like a spy story, but it has some of those trappings to it.
Do you know what I wish they'd done to get the Peter Pettigrew, the Animagus stuff in? Cut out the plot with Crookshanks.
Yeah.
The Crookshanks plot in the book, the reason that's there is so that you don't ever forget that Ron's got a rat. That's the purpose of that plot in the book. Just to keep reminding you, just in little ways, by the way, do you remember Ron has a rat? Because it's important. And that's quite clever, right? Just put that in and you mention it. The books, they don't really... The Crookshanks thing in the movie comes up only like twice, right? But it takes up time. And so you're like, well, why does she have this cat now, right? Because the thing in the book is she's found this cat and it's this horrible fucking cat that nobody likes. But she's adopted it and it's her project is to try and redeem this fucking hideous atrocity of a cat.
You know what I think of when I first read Crookshanks? And there's no way this would be the inspiration, but have you seen like those like internet videos of that really weird looking cat that has like the weird human eyes?
No.
And have you not seen these? And this guy like narrates like, that's a weird fucking cat. Like, Ma, come look at this cat. It's weird. I'll try to find those videos and show you later, but people who know what I'm talking about, that's exactly what I thought this cat looked like when I read it.
Right. And you get these hideous fucking cats. But in the movie, they don't have enough time to actually get to do that. So just cut that out, you know? Because the thing is, the running thing in this whole book is Ron and Hermione aren't getting along because of this cat. But the cat doesn't come up that often, so they're just not getting along in the movie.
Right.
No reason. And also, I mean, I could have just done without Buckbeak, to be honest. Like, I don't mind. Yeah. It's a decent CGI animal for a little bit. And it's sort of sad when you think it's been killed, but I don't like time travel plots, and I particularly don't like a sudden last-minute time travel plot in other stuff, you know?
Well, you know, like this one, at the very least, as opposed to Chamber of Secrets, as opposed to that, they at least hint at what this is throughout the book, you know, with Hermione just showing up and like, whoa, where the hell did you come from?
They don't in the movies, though. They don't in the
No,
movies.
I think they actually do it better in the movies.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because there was a few times where they don't even mention that she just appeared. Like, she just joins in on the conversation.
Right.
And then only after the conversation was over, like, Ron will, like, make a comment to Harry. He'll go, hey, and when did Hermione get there? You know? In the movie, they do it much better where, like, they actually use, like, the camera. Where it's like...
the fact that you don't need someone to comment on it.
Right.
That works. I think... Do you know how I said about the Chamber of Secrets? What it does with the diary is it includes the diary just enough that you don't miss the point.
Right.
What this one does is it loses a lot of supporting context. I think another good example is Professor Trelawney, right?
Right.
So they first go to see Professor Trelawney, and she predicts that Harry's gonna die. And it's this bad omen, the Grim. And everybody's really worried about it. But in the books, there's this immediate moment right afterwards where they go to Professor McGonagall's class, and she basically tells them, she predicts a student's death every year, and it never comes true.
Right.
And I think without that context, it changes the tone of everything that comes after quite a lot.
Right, because there's a really long running plot in the book of Hermione and Trelawney kind of butting heads because she's crap at divination, and the teacher's she's useless. Right.
And Ron and Harry basically get through that class by making shit up.
Well, that doesn't come until Goblet.
Doesn't it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because that's one of my favorite fucking bits in Goblet. There's a bit where they I'm pretty sure that was.
Maybe. I remember that, though. Where they were just like, yeah.
But yeah, there's this long bit in Goblet, I think, where they're like making up like horrible things to happen to him. And then like when they get like really good grades on, they're like, "Oh, that's not good because I said I was going to get decapitated." Like now I have to figure something else out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's always the stuff that gets lost from the movies, though, right? The stuff that's like the classes over the years. That's over the year. That's the stuff that you always lose. Because if you've got to cut something out, it's got to be that.
Right. But like what I was gonna say is, like there's this long running plot between Trelawney and Hermione, but what you also get is many, but a few more scenes involving divination class that really discredit the divination class, because like by like the end of that book, like the only two students who are really into it are Lavender Brown and Pavel Patel.
Right.
And so you're kind of like with all the other students, like, oh, this is bullshit, like Jesus Christ. But then Trelawney has like a legit prediction that becomes true.
You get one of the good Dumbledore scenes in this when he
in
basically
the book.
says, right, in the book when he says, oh yeah, no, she's a complete fraud, but during her job interview, she basically changed personalities and cracked out this incredible prophecy. So I just hired her just in case.
Right.
Just in case she stumbled upon another one.
Right.
Which that's good Dumbledore, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't get that in the movie at all. All you get at a certain point is just no discredit to her. I think Emma Thompson plays her awesomely.
The performance is great.
Yeah.
She's just not in enough.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you get this moment where she has the same revelation, but you have there's no impact to it, because like, oh, okay, I guess she is legit, because we don't have enough scenes leading up to it that suggest that she's not.
And I definitely think what we're starting to see here is the set design's getting really good, the casting's getting really good, the acting's getting really good, the budgets are getting higher, but the books are getting harder to fit into even like a 2-hour, 40-minute movie.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse, from here.
That's why I don't want to over-inform you of what's coming up and stuff, but I've never liked the split movie thing. Deathly Hallows is actually one of the ones where I was completely on board for that, because in my opinion, the movie before really struggled in this area. So, yeah, we'll see. You said you watched Goblet.
I have.
So I won't be spoiling this by saying that. I think Goblet actually learns the lessons of Azkaban and cuts far more ruthlessly and smartly than this one does, I would say.
Except for one, like, kind of major plot point in Goblet. And this actually ties into Prisoner. I was going to bring this up. Prisoner starts, at least, I mean, it's in both the book and the movie, but Prisoner starts this weird trend of, let's establish a really dumb conflict between the three that you can't even really explain away with, oh, well, they're kids and they're hormonal. Like, no, these are like really dumb conflicts that they're having.
Are you talking about the house elf liberation?
Yeah, like there's that, but not even so much that, right? In Prisoner, like, Ron is legit upset because Hermione's pet is trying to kill his. Like, that's a legit concern. And, like, all Hermione ever says about it is, well, he's a cat. Yeah! Like, that's
yeah, stop the cat eating my rat.
Right, like, this... Like, I had the rat first. Like, if you want to go that route, like, maybe you shouldn't have got a cat knowing I owned a rat. Huh? Like, that's really inconsiderate of you.
Yeah, and that's stuff you're usually safe to cut.
Right. But they do include a little bit of that in Prisoner, and like you said, it's not. It's
a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's fine in the book, but in the book you've got time to deal with that stuff.
In Goblet, there's even a dumber conflict between Harry and Ronald, where the conflict is straight up like, Ronald thinks that Harry put his name in the goblet and he didn't. Harry tries to explain, like, no, I didn't do it because someone's trying to kill me. Like, and Ron goes, whatever, you just want the glory. You're the famous Harry Potter. Like, whatever, people trying to kill you. Like, you literally watched 3 years running someone try to kill Harry Potter. You were there. Like,
that's I don't want to get ahead on Goblin Man, but man, that ending to Goblet the book. Actually, I think that legitimately lands. You know.
Yes, it does. But yeah, like, and it wasn't until Harry has to fight a goddamn dragon in Goblet where Ron goes, "Oh yeah, man, I guess you have a point." Like, God, you're dumb.
So I don't want to get ahead, but I promise I will have a lot of good things to say about both the book and the movie Goblet next week.
Yeah.
I think it's a real highlight of the series. Both,
okay.
And one of the few where I think book and movie line up in being good, if you know what I mean. Like, because we'll see. We'll get into that. So I'm gonna ask you again: is it a good citizen of the AdaptNation?
I think out of these three, it's the worst citizen, but I don't think it's necessarily a horrible movie.
It was my least favorite Harry Potter movie until Half-Blood Prince, though. I will say that. Yeah, all right. Well, so what are we gonna do next week? Are you gonna keep rolling with these, and we'll do a double Harry Potter?
Yeah. I think by the time we record this again, I will have finished both the book and the movie for Order of the Phoenix, so we could probably do Goblet and Phoenix.
Okay. And if you've done Half-Blood Prince, we'll see about Half-Blood Prince.
I don't know if I'll get that done. I've been pretty busy, and my pace has slowed quite a bit on these.
Well, they have got quite a bit longer, haven't they? I think from Goblet of Fire, every one is one of those doorstop books. Pretty readable there. So, just roughly on topic though. So you've now read how far into Order of the Phoenix? I don't want to spoil anything.
I am not very far. I think I'm like 50 pages in.
Okay, that's fine.
Like, honestly.
So I think last time we talked about Harry Potter, you'd only read Chamber.
Yeah.
Up to Chamber. How are you finding it so far? So you've done 2 more now, Prisoner and Goblet. How are you liking the series?
So I mean, there's still some things I have issues with, and I try to like separate my issues of like my perceived issues with the author and like with the book. I think honestly there's a lot of weird like moments of J.K. Rowling trying to work out her own like issues with the book. You know what I mean? Like, because there's such a weird emphasis on like money in certain parts of this series.
Yes.
Of like especially dealing like with Ron and Harry.
I think Rita Skeeter's the one that really comes through.
Yeah, and like I think I mentioned this during the podcast. Did I mention this in the podcast, or did I just an offhanded comment to you? There's a real big issue with, and I don't mean that pun intended, but J.K. Rowling has a thing with like fat people.
Yeah.
And a very like the first couple times I didn't really pay attention to it much, but then she really makes it a point to like really hammer home the fact that a character is big, whether it's bad or good. They will make sure that you know that this person is portly or pudgy or pigly or rotund, massive,
and very rarely is someone fat and nice.
Right. Or, I mean, like I said, I think the only one that is described as being big and nice is Hagrid. And even...
But he's not
fat. No, he's not. He's just bad. Like, there's really no... Because that's one of the first things they even make a point about, like, Peter Pettigrew. Like, when he appears, like, oh, and he was kind of a pasty, pudgy man. It's like, oh, immediately you introduce the next villain as being fat. And...
I guess Neville is sort of fat.
Well, no, he's just clumsy, I guess.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a bit of a shame. Speaking as a fat person,
right? Like I'm a big dude. It's just kind of like, man, like lame.
It's one of those things where I always sort of feel like we're a bit past that now.
Right. And like, okay, so there's another issue that comes up that I think is a real. It could have been a real empowering moment, but it comes off as a real shitty moment. So I mean, we're done talking about the movies, right? At this point,
for sure.
Okay, so this happens in Goblet of.
We'll wrap up.
Yeah, we'll wrap up.
I thought we'd talk about it.
So this happens in Goblet of Fire. There's a big moment, in the book involving this whole Tri-Wizard tournament, the Yule Ball. Right. So up to this point, they've also made a point to describe that Hermione has kind of like big teeth in the books. Like she has like weird like buck teeth sort of thing.
Right.
And she fixes them. Like she like magically shrinks them. And then she comes to the ball all done up. Her hair's all done up. And that's another thing. Like she had like this big curly massive hair all the time. And she decides to actually, pin it down. And when she comes up. So she has like artificially beautified herself. And people lose their fucking minds. They're like, oh my God, did you see Hermione? She's beautiful. Oh my God, she's amazing. And then like she also makes a point of like Hermione like really loving it. Like she's super happy because of this.
And it's one of those things, I guess if you're watching this and you are a young person, you may not be aware. That used to be very common when we were younger people. That was a very common trope. You don't really see it anymore.
Good.
And I absolutely agree. It's one of those things that looking back, it's weird how accepting of it you were. Do you know what I mean? As a trope. It's weird how ingrained it was and how normal it was for that thing. Like, do you remember like the Strictly Ballroom version where the greasy-haired nerd suddenly becomes perfectly attractive at the end by taking off the glasses and flicking the hair, and all of a sudden the guy's interested.
Right.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the big ones was it the movie She's All That, right? Where no joke, like the if no one's seen this movie before, the plot line is they straight up have a bet, right, where they can turn the dorkiest, ugliest girl in school into the prom queen, right? And the most popular guy in school, this jock, does, he's like, oh, I'll take that bet. And literally all they do to make her, like, this girl's already attractive. But they sort of just take her glasses off and, like, let out her ponytail. And then she's like, oh my God, she's an actress. She's a beautiful actress. Right. And, and the jock finds a heart because, he likes her for more than, her superficialness, but he never actually noticed it until she was super attractive. It's just like a weird, shitty thing to me. Where, and Goblet of Fire has that moment to a T. It's there,
right.
Like it, and it could have been a weird, empowering thing. Like she could have still done that, right? She could have shrunk her teeth and did her hair up, whatever. But if it had been done like as like a self-fulfilling thing, like she wanted to do it to feel better about herself, like that's empowering to me. Like to me, that's empowering. You chose to do these changes because it's going to make you feel better. But she does it, and you don't see any of that in the book. It might be true, but there's none of that in the book. All you get are reactions from everyone else.
Right. It's also a weird thing too, because if having like big buck teeth is something most people don't consider attractive. Not that I'm saying you should always change yourself based on how people are saying attractive. I'm just saying, right? And she's lived in the magical world for about 4 years now. I'm sure there are wizard dentists that she could have gone to like year 1, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, well you want a little smaller? Done." You know what I mean? It doesn't even fit into the world that much that if it's that easy to change, wouldn't people just be changing how they look all the time? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, the funny thing is, like...
Which is a minor issue based on what you're talking about, but you know what I mean?
The funny thing is like, I'm reading... Right now, I'm currently reading... which one? Order of Phoenix. And I've been introduced to Tonks.
Right.
And that's her shtick. Like, she changes her appearance. And they make it out to be, like, this really... like, special thing that only certain people can do this. And...
She's also one of the most fantastic characters, I think, in the whole series.
I've already kind of liked her, so
she's really great.
But yeah, like that was kind of a weird moment, and like I said, there's a lot of weird stuff in the Harry Potter books that I mean, like I walked that tightrope where it's like, would I have noticed this as a kid? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. But like every as an adult, you kind of start to see maybe some really unappealing things in this book that maybe like as an adult I don't really want kids to see.
I think it's worth mentioning that like a lot has changed in the last 15 years,
right.
You know. But no, I agree, and I think there's a lot of stuff that's mishandled around about the age when the characters start dating.
Right. I mean, I will say, both in the movie and the book, one of my favorite bits is this whole section where Ron and Harry have to ask a girl out to a dance.
Right. For the first time.
Right. Like, because that's spot on. Right, like I've been in that position. Where like, oh my god. You're like, it is the most nerve-wracking. Like, I'm thinking like back to myself as a teenager. Like I was kind of, I wouldn't say a daredevil, but like the idea of driving in a car going 120 down the freeway didn't mean anything to me. Right, I was just like, oh, fun. Asking a girl out to the dance. Petrifying. Absolutely petrifying. So there's a bit where Harry goes, I fought a dragon. Why is this so scary to me? It's one of my favorite. I'm like, yes, that's how it is.
It's good. I'm very interested in seeing how you feel about certain things when we get onto Order of the Phoenix. Okay. And I think I'm very interested to see what you think of the Order of the Phoenix movie. So, in other words, let's wrap up with this. So next week we're going to do as many Harry Potter movies as you've seen, and hopefully that'll be entertaining to you guys too.
Well, next week will be our normal show, correct?
Well, sorry, yes, next episode. 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you've all had a lovely time. This was AdaptNation, with the show where we talk about the adaptations from across the nation. You've been listening to me, Owen Adams, of course, and my good friend Jonathan Gunn. Where can they find you around the internet, my good friend Jonathan Gunn?
Well, you can stick right here on this channel and check out some of the other stuff that we've released. We have our other weekly show, which is just called Those Aren't Biscuits, where we talk about some more recent pop culture things and just our general opinions about day-to-day life and, you know, some affirmations, and we got advice and, you know, that sort of stuff. It's a good time. It's a well-rounded show. If you go further, we have some gameplay videos of us playing. You have some gameplay of just me playing. Got vlogs on this channel. We run the gamut here, and you can find it all on this channel. Or you can follow me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. Now, where can they find you normally?
That's awesome. Oh, just go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams. All right. I think that says pretty much done for the week.
Yeah, that's it.
See ya, fellas.
Have a good one.